For a game to have flow, players need a goal or a destination, an intriguing and somewhat obvious path to get there, and some indication of what to do once they arrive. A proper and well-planned game environment is the best way for designers to achieve these goals. The most obvious tool in our flow control bag of tricks is the physical limitations we apply to the environment. For example, let's say we want a player to take his or her character from point A to point B. We are immediately faced with some questions. How do they know they're supposed to go to point B in the first place? What if they go in the wrong direction, say to some player-imagined point C? The easy answer is don't let them. That is to say, create obvious or highly suggested paths to initiate the player's movement in the right direction. So, as part of the level design and as a way to create flow control in our world, we will design these constraints to match logically with our world. In this case, we have a rock slide that restricts the player from exploring this part of the map, so they can only go from point A to point B. This is called a linear path. There is only one option for direction, a direct path from A to B. So, we have solved our flow control problem by just removing all other direction options. However, the player will quickly realize that he or she only has this one option, and while that fulfills our need for instantly informing the player of what to do, go to point B, it's the only choice. Of course, the problem with the solution is that it's removing player options. It does not in and itself create flow, in the sense that this could become a very boring game by just navigating in one direction. It also doesn't require any skills to be learned or provide any motivation to actually play the game. We cannot control pacing unless this is going to be a very short game. What we need are obstacles. Obstacles are just what they sound like, challenges the player must overcome to progress in the game. Obstacles allow game designers to open up the linear path restrictions as well as provide opportunities for fun and to use and learn in-game skills. They also allow us to begin to control the pace of the game. An obstacle can be anything that we want it to be, as long as it fits the context of the environment. It could be a group of hostile goblins, an area of falling rocks, or a bridge that cannot be easily crossed. Let's look at this in terms of our mountain climbing game. Point A is where our player starts in the canyon. We want the player to go to point B first, but we want to hide this intention from the player to give them a larger sense of the world and their perceived options working within that world. So we make going from point A to point B the easiest and the most rewarding at this stage of the game. But it's not the only option. The player can go to point C, but is warned that that route is more difficult. The obstacles in going from A to B will be easier at this stage in the game. At the same time, we encourage certain player behavior. Go this way. We can also discourage the player from choosing any other behavior. We can do this by making obstacles that strongly hint to the player to try a different behavior. For example, we could create a rock slide that is extremely difficult to navigate without advanced skill mastery, or say a jumping mechanic. We can increase the likelihood of the player going the route the designer intended by increasing the difficulty level of going any other route. The trick is making sure the players can actually pick up on the environmental clues enough to understand that they need to acquire the basic jumping skills first before taking on a rock slide. In previous modules, we touched on some broad concepts of game design. These included game documentation, game structure, our introduction to game mechanics, and common design theories. Now, let's see how some of these theories are applied to level design. Level design, associated with environment design, is a technical and creative process that lays out the themes, mechanics, and concepts of the section of a game. Environments are an important part of level design, and this module will also cover some basic rules on building environments for a video game. For this module, we will cover the basics of level design and environments by examining the following topics: achieving level design goals, environment building tools, and finally, open world versus linear environments. What is good level design? Players know it when they see it, but is it just luck and guesswork? We have previously discussed many design concepts and goals on a very broad basis. Now, let's begin to apply those basics to actual level design. We'll begin by reviewing some of our level design goals. First and foremost, a game should be fun to play. In terms of level design, we want the game to be fun to navigate. The world should intrigue and guide a player through the level and achieve flow. Remember, flow is that nebulous state of being happy and engaged within a game as introduced by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. We can achieve flow through pacing and balance in level design. In turn, we achieve pacing and balance in level design by constructing the environment to guide the player to take the course through the level that the designer wants them to take. We could call this flow control.